Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of November 30th to December 6th, 2025, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them. And we have 3 stories to cover this week, including the report about Metroid Prime 4 ranging from its Metacritic score to a bit of a controversy surrounding the amiibos with it, depending on how you want to look at it though. A comment made by Yacht Club in terms of its future, which seems to be uncertain unless they claim their next game, Minda the Holler, does well or anything. And a comment made by the voice actors who voiced Bayonetta in Bayonetta 3 video game, and the controversy that she had to go through and everything like that. If you're interested where I got the source of this information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this either on YouTube or Patreon. And of course, the timestamps will also be in the description as well if there are certain parts of this video you wish to skip to it all. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details and all. The first one has to do with is that footage has just come out about what Red Dead Redemption will look like on the Nintendo Switch now, or Switch 2, I mean to be exact. Now, I've yet to download the update. I'm hoping to do that at some point down the road and everything. A lot of stuff going on and all. But judging by some of the footage that has come out and everything, it looks like looks pretty good. And there have been some claims that it runs at a smooth 60 frames per second, even on the Switch 2 and all. So that one is something I'm certainly want to try again and see how it is, especially with it running at 60 frames per second and all. I'm hoping that this opens the door to the possibility that Red Dead Redemption 2 could make its way over to the Switch 2, which I'm hoping that is the case, although I will say this. Should Red Dead Redemption 2 make its way over to the Switch 2, I wouldn't be shocked if it is a game key card. I could be wrong considering how the first Red Dead Redemption is the full game in the Switch 1 cartridges though, but given the direction a lot of third-party developers have gone outside of maybe a few here and there, it just would not surprise me if it turns out to be that the Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Switch 2, if it happens, is a game key card. But in either case, I am going to take a look at how the Switch 2 version of Red Dead Redemption looks, on my Nintendo Switch 2 and all. We also learned that basically Nintendo has posted, looking at the anniversary, or the 12th, I believe it's the 12th, I'm not 100% sure, but the anniversary of the release of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. For those who are not familiar, that was a game that was released as one of the launch titles or around the launch of the Switch 1 and everything like that. And while this certainly is nice, we've yet to hear any kind of graphical update or anything like that for maybe a Switch 2 version. Same thing goes with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 as well. And it remains to be seen if Nintendo is going to do that or not. That said, we have seen Switch 2 versions of games such as basically, Kirby and the Forgotten Land to basically we also had The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom have gotten a Switch 2 version. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility that Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, and 3 could get a Nintendo Switch 2 version, or even Xenoblade Chronicles X for that matter, that just came out as well. But so far, the only thing they've put up right now is posts honoring the anniversary of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that's basically it at this time for that. We also learned that there was speculation this week as it seemed as though that CD Projekt Red could be teasing something involving, Cyberpunk 2077 and all. However, as much as that built some excitement, it turned out to be nothing really special. As it turns out to be it was basically looked like a calendar with looking at the dates of when some of these characters like Johnny Silverhand and everything was born and all. So it wasn't a DLC or anything like that at all, though. It seems as though CD Projekt Red is sort of moving on to that with Witcher 4 and the sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, which could be a whiles away before we see that game come out and everything like that. I will say Cyberpunk 2077 has been on a wild ride before. It launched in a bad state 5 years ago, but since then it has definitely rebounded and recovered, and it has been, well, let's just say a lot of people like it now than it was when it originally launched, indeed. And speaking of, continuing on with CD Projekt Red, it seems to be that they want to release, series trilogy within 6 years. This is talking about, the upcoming Witcher 4 in development that will focus around Ciri and all. That's going to be interesting to see if CD Projekt Red is going to pull that off, though. That said, they have switched from their Red engine that they normally have used to Unreal Engine 5, and it will be very interesting to see how they pull that off and everything like that. Could we see that as, a PS5, Xbox Series X and S, possibly go into the PS6 or whatever the next system Xbox is going to be? So it will be very interesting to see how they pull that off. I also think it will be very interesting to see if this series trilogy does make its way over to the Switch 2 and all. So time will ultimately tell if that does happen or not. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we are learning that Paramount seems to be working on the idea of a Sonic Universe movie spin-off announced for 2028, supposedly not related to the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Obviously, Sonic the Hedgehog has been very successful for Paramount. The movies have done very well. With Sonic the Hedgehog 3, I would say I really enjoyed that one. I was kind of surprised how dark they took that, to be exact, but it definitely did very well. Obviously, we have a good idea what Sonic 4 is probably going to be like, although it remains to be seen just how much influence they'll draw for Sonic CD to even Sonic Heroes for that matter, though. But it'll be interesting to see how they pull this off, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make an attempt to turn it into like a Sonic Cinematic Universe. Whether they do that or not remains to be seen. It'll be interesting to see, and if so, it will be interesting to see if they pull that off or not. And last but not least, and one that really broke yesterday, was the announcement that Netflix has actually acquired Warner Brothers, at least for now, though. For those who are not familiar with this, and I'm sure most of you are by now, Warner Brothers decided to put itself up for sale, to be exact, and there were several bidders out. Comcast was one, Paramount was another, and Netflix at the time wasn't considered to be the one purchasing it, but then they sort of threw their hat into the ring in terms of purchasing as well. Supposedly, Paramount has offered several bids to basically Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers rejected those bids, and there were talks about what Netflix might put up, though, and seemed to indicate that it sounded more and more likely that Netflix was going to buy Warner Brothers. Then we heard Paramount complained about this and all, and so, and of course we've learned about how Paramount, how the CEOs are basically, pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, to getting funding from, a firm in the Middle East and everything. But in the end, it seems as though, at least for now, Netflix is going to acquire Warner Brothers, though. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out in terms of regulations and all. And it's going to be really interesting to see what this means for consumers as well. I mean, there are some questions that still remain in terms of what does this mean for those who have HBO Max and Netflix, or one or the other? What does this mean for theater releases, though, as there are concerns about this could have a negative impact on movie theaters, so there's some concerns about that and everything. And of course, consumer concerns, union concerns, there's certainly a whole lot of things in regards of this as well. One thing I will say about this, and I know this may come off as political to some folks out there, is this. While I do agree that there are certainly some concerns about the idea of Netflix buying Warner Brothers, I just can't help but feel that had Paramount succeeded, though, and given the fact that the people who own Paramount now are pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, would they have gone through the same scrutiny that Netflix is probably going to go through, or would they have gotten a free pass of it because they were pro-MAGA, pro-Trump? So I just can't shake the feeling that that kind of scenario could have technically happened indeed. But nevertheless, We'll see how this all plays out. There's no doubt it's going to get ugly, and it'll be interesting to see how Netflix decides if they're going all in or not, or if they eventually decide to back out or anything like that, though. That said, we've seen some acquisitions that, well, majority of the time have gone through, though. Look at what happened with the Microsoft Activision Blizzard debacle, how long that got dragged on until eventually Microsoft secured Activision Blizzard for good, though. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this kind of scenario, though. And while there is always a possibility this acquisition could Netflix could back off from this acquisition, there's supposedly sort of a $5 billion thing put in place in case Netflix decides to back away from buying Warner Brothers. I feel like, and again, I could be wrong on this, I feel like more than likely Netflix is going to own Warner Brothers, though. Again, I could be wrong. A lot of things can happen, though, but I suspect more than likely they will own Warner Brothers at the end of the day and all. Okay, with the Quick My Two Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My Two Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with a comment made by Jennifer Hales, who voiced Bayonetta in the third game in the Bayonetta series and all. Now, Bayonetta 3 sort of had a very interesting history, though. It was originally announced during one of the Game Awards and everything. This was around when Reggie Fils-Aimé was still, president of Nintendo of America. I believe it was shown during the 2017 Video Game Awards. This came out around the same time when Nintendo announced that they were porting Bayonetta 2 and Platinum, along with Nintendo, were porting Bayonetta 2 and Bayonetta 1 over to the Nintendo Switch or Switch 1 back at the time. Now, there have been reports about basically what happened to the game. There was originally, it got restarted several times here and there. But in either case, we eventually did get Bayonetta 3 when that game officially came out. And I do enjoy the game. I think that Hideki Kamiya created a good game and everything like that, though. I mean, there were certainly some areas like basically the visuals were kind of a hit and miss in certain areas of the game, though, and there was some reports of some slowdown, though, and I did see some, but it didn't impact other parts of the gameplay. Like, I was able to see it run, the frame rate was running fine and everything, but in either case, it was definitely a good game nevertheless. However, the game also had its sort of share of controversies as well. Some have pointed to basically, the ending to Bayonetta 3, like some people didn't like it. But probably the biggest one was, before the game came out, was one of the former voice actress who voiced Bayonetta and Bayonetta 1 and 2, came out and made sort of a claim about saying how Platinum threw her under the bus and everything. Basically with some comments saying how she was offered less to reprise the role and everything. This led to some questions about, the treatment of voice actors in general, in terms of basically, how they are treated, to how they are getting paid. This led to a lot of people blaming Platinum, to even Hideki Kamiya, who, for the record, I feel like has a history of sometimes putting his foot in his mouth to some degree, try to chime in and basically wait on it, and to the point that he made the situation worse and all. It wasn't until a report from Jason Schreier that came out that said, oh, wait a minute, basically the original voice actor basically came to Platinum and said that, hey, if you want me to voice Bayonetta again, you have to basically pay me more than what you originally thought. And that kind of reversed the situation over that, to be exact, and kind of made her the villain, in which eventually she basically tried to make up an excuse and everything like that. Plus, there were also reports that she is basically, I know this is going to sound political to some, but I don't share her view on this, her being pro-life and everything. So there were a lot of things that go in against her and everything. Well, eventually the whole thing faded, though. Bayonetta 3 came out and everything. But Jennifer Hales, who voiced Bayonetta 3, kind of weighed in on the whole situation herself and was, well, let's just say she does feel the bit of the sting over the whole situation and everything. In an article from Nintendo Life, it basically reads that, quote, Jennifer Hales, one of the most iconic voice actors, best known for playing Commander Shepard, I believe the female Shepard though, in the Mass Effect trilogy, and Naomi Hunter and Emma Emmerich in the Metal Gear Solid series, has spoken about her experience in playing Bayonetta and Bayonetta 3. Hale, who took over from the role from Heller Taylor for the third entry in the series, told Gaming Bible via IGN that she got thrown under the bus by the whole thing. I was unable to speak on my own behalf because I was under not one but two NDAs. Eventually, I was allowed to make a statement, which I appreciate, and I was able to present the facts. Hale continued. Following Platinum's announcement that the new voice actor Taylor urged fans to boycott the game due to the pay dispute, she claimed the studio offered her only $4,000 to do the whole game at a flat rate. Fans rally around Taylor initially before reports emerged that Taylor had been offered the rate for between 4 or 5 sessions. Hale said that there were some things said that were presented as facts but were also false. I would have never taken a role otherwise before I accept the audition. I check everything thoroughly and I trust the director. Thankfully, playing Bayonetta was so much fun and the community was so welcoming to me, especially after the fiasco had passed and the facts have come out. Following Hale's initial statement, Platinum Games came out in support of the actor, saying, "We give our full support to Jennifer Hales as the new Bayonetta and align with everything in her statement." Fortunately, the controversy died down following those additional reports, and Platinum's own involvement and experience hasn't put Hales off of the idea of returning to the role. It was not fun being thrown under the bus like that, like I had, but I was happy to come out on the other side. While the drama has largely subsided earlier this year, series creator Hideki Kamiya shared his thoughts on the ordeal, saying, "Man, that was seriously lame." So I will say this is sort of interesting indeed, though. I'm glad in the end a lot of the actual truth of the information came out, though, on this. But it also highlights a couple of things. One, it does highlight some concerns about what some voice actors do have about, being paid and everything to play these roles. But at the same time, though, also it shows how easily misinformation could spread very quickly and turn the whole situation on its head, though. And it was very unfortunate that she got thrown under the bus on this situation. However, in the end, she does seem to indicate that she'll be open for a role, though, if Bayonetta 4 does happen, which I wouldn't be against if a Bayonetta 4 would happen, but given how Hideki Kamiya has left Platinum and has gone back to Capcom and is currently working on the sequel to Okami, I have my doubts that a Bayonetta 4 is going to happen. But we'll see. We'll see. Over time, we will see if that truly does emerge or not, though. So time will ultimately tell. But overall, it doesn't sound like she won't work with them anymore and all, but in terms of with Platinum or with, if a Bayonetta 4 or another Bayonetta game does happen, but this whole situation does give a good example of what happens when you let misinformation spread like wildfire, like really, really bad and everything. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with the comment made by Yacht Club in terms of the situation that they are currently finding themselves into and all. And looks like they're putting all their eggs in the basket for at least this upcoming game that they're trying to put out. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video. And for this one, we're going to be talking about Yacht Club. Now, for those who may not be familiar with it, they are mostly famous for basically the Shovel Knight games and everything. This was like one of their premier games. I believe it was also made up of people who worked at WayForward Studios that did, like the Shantae series and everything. So basically... and I will say, basically, Shovel Knight is definitely a fun, old school 2D type of a game, though. Really fun indeed if you enjoy those type of games, indeed, though. And they are working on supposedly their next game, though, I believe it's called Mana the Hollow, although there are claims that they were working on a 3D version of Shovel Knights though, although it remains to be seen how far they've gotten with that one though. But I think recently we've also started to see how some companies out there, every now and then, they usually like to would like to say that if this game doesn't succeed, this could have a seriously impact on them. And that has happened before in the past, though. And Yacht Club doesn't seem to be any different or anything like that. It seems that one of their upcoming games, Minda Hollow, has, suffered a delay here and there, though, and hopefully we'll see that game come out soon. But recently, a comment made by Yacht Club in terms of an interview they had with Bloomberg seemed to indicate that they're putting all their eggs in the one basket with this one game, and if it doesn't do well, they could have a negative impact on the company and all. In an article from GameSpot, it reads that, quote, in a new Bloomberg interview, the head of, co-founder of Yacht Club, said in order for Yacht Club to remain independent, Minda the Hollow needs to be a success, and if it could sell 200,000 copies, that would be really great. The studio recently underwent layoffs and put a second in the work project on hold until Minda the Hollow is released. It's a make or break for sure, this co-founder said. If we sold 500,000, then that would be golden. If we sold 200,000, that would be really great. If we sold like 100,000, that's not so good. Originally planned for the October, Minda the Hollow underwent an indefinite last-minute delay just a few weeks prior to launch and currently does not have a new release date. The CEO told Bloomberg the delay happened in order for Yacht Club to improve on various elements of the game that they were only recently identified. At the time of the delay, the studio said it wasn't a major delay and it was done in order to apply some final polish and balance to make the game truly shine. The studio said it didn't want to announce a new release date until the game was submitted to platform holders. It was only in 2024 that the entire studio shifted work to Minda the Hollow, a top-down Zelda-like with Game Boy era visuals, with the studio having previously been split into two teams. One team working on Minda, while the others working on unannounced 3D Shovel World sequel, according to Bloomberg. Yacht Club released their debut Shovel Knights, a throwback platform starring a knight wielding a shovel, to great success in 2024. The character struck a crowd of players, and Shovel Knights even received an official amiibo from Nintendo and was included in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as an assist trophy. The studio spent years after Shovel Knight's release crafting various expansions and spin-offs. Yacht Club's most recent release was 2022 Shovel Knight's Dig in collaboration with NITROME. So the fact that they are basically calling this their make-to-break game, though, is kind of concerning a little bit, though. The fact that they're trying to put all their faith into their upcoming release, Minda the Hollow, and everything. Now, I have seen videos of the game, though, and it looks interesting, though. I like the idea they're aiming for a top-down Zelda approach, and it does look like it's a throwback to the Game Boy and NES era, though, and I certainly don't think that's necessarily a bad thing at all. But still, I am concerned with the fact that if they are basically saying if this doesn't sell $200,000, sell like over 200,000 copies, this could spell trouble for Yacht Club, and I think that is a little bit worrisome of what happens if this game flops all. To me, it feels like they're playing all their chips or putting all their eggs in one basket, and it could have big ramification if the game flops for them, though. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we don't have a new release date at this time, so hopefully we'll get a new one soon and everything. But overall, Yacht Club's really putting all their eggs in one basket with this upcoming Minda the Hollow game, though. Whether this succeeds or not remains to be seen. I would like for it to succeed, though, but it worries me that they're putting, like I said, putting all their eggs in the basket over this one game and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our third and final part, and this one has to do with Metroid Prime 4, with a little bit of a controversy supposedly surrounding the Metacritic score to even, supposedly a feature with the amiibo with some back and forth with that one. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our third and final part of our My Two Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at somewhat of a controversy surrounding Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which just recently just came out though. Now, that game had been in, let's just say, development hell for quite some time now. Originally announced in 2017 during the Switch 1 era, but then in 2019, it was announced that Nintendo was going to restart development on that game, and since then it was rumored at one point that Bandai Namco in Singapore was originally working on the game and everything, but apparently they brought it back to Retro Studios. They hired some folks here and there and everything like that, and then eventually when we saw first footage of it though, it was pretty impressive indeed though, and for a lot of us, we're waiting for when that game was going to come out. There are also speculation of it coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, which later turned out to be true after all. Well, there was recently this week two controversies depending on how you want to look at it, to be exact though. The first one has to do with the Metacritic score that came out though. Now, to me, Metacritic, I would say, I don't treat it as the end-all tell-all though, but I don't outright ignore it either though. As of the recording of this video though, currently they have the game, Metacritic has the game at 80, which is generally favorable, with 64 positive and 15 mixed, 0 negatives though. No user reviews at this time, so we'll have to wait and see about that one. Again, for me, user reviews can be kind of a hit or miss. I don't think all user reviews are necessarily bad, but you cannot deny that there are some that either put out, bias or fanboyism or trolling, to be exact though. Again, to be clear, I'm not suggesting all user reviews are like that or anything like anything. There are ones that do actually put time and effort into them and everything. But the whole thing about this being, at 80 being, it means it's bad and everything like that, I don't think it is. I don't think it's 80 necessarily means it's a bad score or anything. I'll admit it's not perfect and all, and certainly it doesn't have the same high score as, say, the other Metroid Prime games out there though. But still, 80 doesn't seem to be like a terrible looking thing or anything like that though. I know, again, I haven't tried the game though. I just recently picked it up, so I'm hoping to try it soon and all, but I don't think the review score is necessarily terrible or anything. It'll be interesting to see how well the game does in terms of sales wise and everything like that. We did see Metroid Dread. I mean, that one supposedly did very well and everything, so we'll see how Prime 4 Beyond does in terms of the sales numbers and everything. I know there's also the controversy with some of the characters and all, but honestly, I'm not bothered by it or anything like that. At least for now, I'm not though. Another controversy, although there are some claims that it's sort of misleading though, has to do with basically one of the amiibos, as there is a claim going around that basically for those who have the bike and are driving through the desert part, that there's no music on it, and in order to get that, it requires you to use one of the amiibos to unlock it, the ones that now cost $30 and everything. Although there's now a claim seem to indicate that you can access this, I think, once you beat the game and everything like that though. I would say for this one, I'm kind of mixed to a certain degree. I can understand some of the criticism towards them using the amiibo to basically unlock certain things and everything like that behind that though. But at the same time, if it's basically you can just unlock it by simply beating the game, then I don't think it's as huge of a deal, since we're talking about like listening to the music while driving through the desert and everything like that. That said though, again, like I said, I don't completely disagree with the criticism, but I don't exactly view this as a big deal or something like that. I mean, if it's basically set up in a way, it's like there's a boss that's so impossible to beat, you need this item, and the only way to do that is to buy this amiibo or something like that, I could see more of a valid argument that could be made towards why some people might be upset about. But this one, I'm just not seeing it, at least for now in my book and everything like that. So I'm not really sure about this one indeed though. But Anyway, these are probably some of the controversy surrounding the launch of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I don't think they're a huge deal, at least in my view. They aren't though, but the Amiibo one, I kind of can see I kind of see two sides of the coin on that one, to be exact. So overall, I would say the review score from Metacritic, I don't think it's terrible. It would have been nice if it was higher though, but I don't think 80 necessarily means it's a bad game, at least from my perspective. As far as the Amiibo situation, I'm mixed on this one, to be exact though. I don't think it's a huge deal, but I can understand some of the controversy or some of the folks may not be happy with, to be exact at all. Okay, this concludes my My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Jennifer Hale's talking about the whole situation she had to go through before Bayonetta 3 was launched though? Do you think she raised some good points about some of the controversy, such as being thrown under the bus? You think that some folks blew it way out of proportion and everything? What are your thoughts about a comment made by Yacht Club saying that this is sort of like a make or break moment for them if Midna the Holler doesn't sell at least 200,000 copies and all? Do you think that going a little bit overboard for them though, or do you think that they just put all their eggs into one basket and that's a big mistake? Indeed. And what are your thoughts about some of the controversy surrounding Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, or at least what some people view as controversial and all? Do you think 80 on Metacritic is a bad score, or do you think it's not really as bad as some people make it out to be? Do you think the Amiibo or basic feature behind a $30 Amiibo, do you think there is justification to the criticism towards that, or do you think that people are blowing that way out of proportion and all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steamlabs. Links will be in the description of this video, so you'll be watching this either on YouTube or Patreon. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!